Good morning. I stand here in solidarity with all of those who recognize that what Israel is doing is in fact an attack on innocent people. It's an act of barbarism, and it is an act which continues the aggression that we have seen in that community, in that area. I was listening to the news today, and it reported on the atrocities and the challenges that the hospitals are facing. They do not have adequate medical supplies to treat those persons who have been brought to their facilities. Some of them are being left outside and not even being accommodated inside the hospitals. The doctors have said that the only facilities, the only equipment that they have there are simply IV drips. They don't have any of the basics in terms of medical supplies, bandages, antibiotics, or any of those needs that there are required to treat those who have been afflicted by this tragedy. So we are calling on the agencies, we're calling on the nations of the world to come together and immediately, today, design a method of getting the medical supplies to treat those persons who have been affected by this tragedy. And we want them to come together and to realize that these are innocent people who have been afflicted by this tragedy, and that they are certainly entitled to the benefits of medical treatment, and we're calling on that to happen immediately. And I stand in solidarity with all of those who are here today denouncing this atrocity.
From the December 12th.
Good morning. My name is Roger Wareham. I am a human rights attorney. I am a member of the December 12th movement and International Secretary General of the International Association Against Torture, which is a non-governmental organization and consultative status with the United Nations. And I make the statement on behalf of those organizations as well as the Friends of Zimbabwe. I'm sure Harriet Tubman will make a statement. We condemn the war crimes being committed by Israel against Gaza. The implementation of collective punishment is a violation of the Geneva Accords, which is the punishment of people who are not involved in any activity for the alleged activities of any one individual. The attack on civilians, the attack on civilian institutions, the disproportionate response, because one of the things I think is not clear from media reports is that 2 Israelis have died from rocket attacks, and those 2 have died with the rocket attacks that occurred after the attack on Gaza. There was an Israeli spokesperson who justified the military attack on Gaza that the rocket attacks over the past year, even though they had killed no one, were inconvenient for the settlers, and that their inconvenience justified the death of now almost 400 Palestinians.
Good morning. My name is Samia Halabi. I'm a Palestinian born in Jerusalem. But I'm looking at the world and seeing ruling elite in America dominating the world, dominating Israel, using Israel as a dog of attack for itself, a ruling elite which traditionally should be responsible for the people that live under it, but totally irresponsible, caring only for their own greed, for their own wealth. Their economy is going to pieces, and this is their way of reviving their economy. Blood translates to money for them, and this is what they're doing. They don't care about the American people suffering here. If someone would go through and detail by detail tell you what's happening to American workers here in the USA, it's a monumental crime against the working people. And what's going on in Gaza is something of the same, except it is pointed and it is killing people and it's throwing blood into the streets.
Calling on because of the kind of oppression that Israel has put upon the people of Palestine and the people in the Gaza Strip particularly. And that is that we must recall how the South Africans got rid of apartheid. And one of the things that all of the Palestinian organizations that I've heard and organizations here in the United States, what they're calling for is disinvestment, is sanctions, is boycott. What we're calling on African Americans to understand is that the Palestinians suffer to the same degree that African Americans, oppressed people throughout the world.
And this is what I think when I see this flag, and I think of all the powerful words that I've heard here today. And knowing that our biggest industry is arms, and that we supply Israel with arms, and so I just can't help but think of Howard Zinn's words, and we'll repeat them again. There is no flag large enough to cover the shame of killing innocent people.
On behalf of Violates, Palestine Right to Return Coalition in New York, we particularly want to thank City Council Member Barron and the December 12th movement for taking the stand for Palestine in the face of media silence, the complicity of not only the U.S. government, but the administration here in New York, the white minority regime in City Hall, with the U.S.-Israeli genocide in Palestine. The strongest solidarity for Palestine in this country has always come from the black movement, going back to SNCC in 1967, when they lost tremendous financial support when they took the stand, when they said that Israel was created by terror, force, and massacre, that Israel was created by wiping 400 villages off the face of the earth. The people who once lived in those villages, those who survived, now live in Gaza, and their children and grandchildren live in Gaza, which is the biggest prison in the world. 1.6 million people, an open-air prison camp, a giant Attica, in camps like Jabalia and Rafah. And the irony, it is those very people to survive, because the only way they could survive under occupation was to come and work in Israel, the so-called Israel. They could only return to the land of their birth as day laborers on their own land to build the luxury hotels and condominiums that line the lakefront of Tel Aviv. And if they got caught in Israel, so-called Israel, after dark, they could go to jail, just like the signs that used to be in southern towns telling black people, don't let the sun set on you in the city.